Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to break down exactly how a 23-year-old coder managed to corner a massive, multi-billion-dollar industry into what I like to call the ultimate trap. And look, this isn't just your standard story about building a hit app. Oh no. This is a masterclass, a profound business case study on using psychological leverage, solving the piracy epidemic, and achieving total platform dominance.
Every day, you make decisions: what to buy, who to trust, what to believe. But here's the real question. Are those decisions really yours? Or are they designed? This channel breaks down the psychology behind everything. I'm Shrest, and this is where we decode the world.
Now, to really grasp how Spotify pulled off this insane power play, you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the music industry back in the early 2000s, and you have to feel the sheer existential terror they were experiencing. This wasn't some polite boardroom negotiation. The labels were quite literally losing a war against a decentralized enemy. Their entire empire, the one built over a century on physical plastic discs, it was turning to dust right in front of them.
I mean, think about it. For decades, the model was just a money printing machine. Press songs onto a CD, control who gets to distribute it, and watch the cash pile up. But then, right around 1999, the golden gates of that CD empire got completely blown off their hinges by Napster and peer-to-peer file sharing. And the damage was catastrophic. Over the next 15 years, from 1999 to 2014, the global value of the music industry was sliced exactly in half. Half. A massive global juggernaut just destabilized overnight. By 2007, things were looking pretty apocalyptic. Piracy was bleeding the US economy dry, costing an estimated $12.5 billion a year. That is 70,000 jobs completely wiped out. So how did the record labels react? Well, they were trapped in denial, so they used the only tool they had: lawsuits. They desperately started suing decentralized networks, and you honestly can't make this up, they even targeted grandmothers and college students. It was an absolute PR disaster. It was chaotic, embarrassing, and the worst part? It didn't even stop the bleeding. Now sure, Apple's iTunes threw them a 99-cent lifeboat, but they were still stubbornly trying to sell clunky digital ownership. They forced you to buy single files, just like you used to buy physical albums. Meanwhile, the pirates, they were already offering this infinite access economy, the ultimate celestial jukebox. The music industry was losing big time simply because they were trying to sell ownership to a market that was screaming for access.
So that brings us to part one, Daniel Ek and the Swedish Gambit.
While the labels were flailing around helplessly trying to sue their own customers into submission, a young Swedish programmer named Daniel Ek figured out the real root of the problem. Coming from the piracy generation himself, he realized something absolutely crucial. You can't beat pirates with lawyers. It just doesn't work. To win, you had to beat them with a vastly superior product. You had to sell absolute convenience, not morality. Ek's vision was totally night and day compared to the status quo. He wanted to replace those painfully slow, messy, virus-laden torrent downloads with a beautifully clean, instant play interface. He pictured a platform giving you all the world's music without a single second of download time. Sounds great, right? But to actually build it, he needed the one thing that was nearly impossible to get: the legal rights to the label's multi-million-dollar catalogs. For 3 long years, the labels just kept saying no. They were terrified that a free streaming service would cannibalize the tiny bit of iTunes revenue they had left. So Ek decides to switch up his strategy. He flies out to their offices in New York, London, and LA, and he just hands them a laptop loaded with his prototype. And here's the kicker. It was completely filled with pirated music. He shocked these executives with an experience so fast, so seamless, it proved right then and there, in their own boardrooms, that he literally held the keys to the future. Which leads us to part 2, the masterstroke, exploiting the mind. So the executives were completely stunned by the tech, but Ek knew that having a cool product wasn't going to be enough to secure those massive catalogs. He needed a psychological masterstroke to force their hands. In 2008, to finally break the deadlock, he didn't just walk in and ask for a licensing deal. Instead, he offered Universal, Sony, Warner, and the others a collective 18% ownership stake in Spotify for literally a token sum. Boom. He fundamentally reframed the entire negotiation. Suddenly, he wasn't asking for permission, he was offering a partnership. This right here is the true genius of the whole gambit. He weaponized their psychological weaknesses perfectly. First up, he targeted loss aversion. These labels had already lost billions, right? But here was a bet with massive upside and basically zero downside. Second, he used the illusion of control. He took helpless victims and magically turned them into powerful stakeholders. And third, he promised massive minimum guarantees, offering to pay out roughly 70% of Spotify's total revenue straight back to the rights holders.
By effectively making them partners in their own disruption, X systematically eliminated every single logical reason for these execs to say no. He was basically saying, look, your business is dying. I've got the only lifeboat, and I'm giving you an 18% share of the company that owns it. Spotify took all the financial risk, and the labels got to take all the upside.
And then he supercharged this whole equity trap into an unstoppable business engine using the freemium model. X set up a brilliant three-step funnel. First, the free, ad-supported tier legally pulled users away from piracy because it was just so incredibly convenient. Second, it built daily listening habits. And finally, slowly but surely, it converted those highly engaged listeners into paying premium customers.
And wow, did this strategy work flawlessly. It was an absolute triumph in user conversion. By 2014, a staggering 80% of Spotify's premium subscribers had actually started out on that free pirate-killing tier. The labels were literally sitting there watching a system turn hardcore pirates, people who had sworn they would never pay for music again, back into a massive, reliable revenue stream.
All right, moving on to part 3, the uncomfortable aftermath.
So, the music industry was officially saved, and global recorded revenues eventually started climbing back up. But this victory came with a very heavy, ironic cost. The ultimate power had completely shifted. Back in the old world, the labels were the gatekeepers, the kingmakers who relied on artificial scarcity. In the new world, they traded that absolute control for a share of the profits in a system entirely ruled by data and the Spotify algorithm.
Nowadays, it's algorithmic playlists like Discover Weekly, Release Radar, and Rap Caviar that truly dictate an artist's career. These algorithms don't care about your traditional label-driven marketing campaigns. They prioritize cold, hard user engagement metrics, like exactly how long someone listens or whether they save a track to their library.
And this algorithmic dominance has had a pretty wild side effect. It is literally altering how music itself is created today. I mean, you can basically say goodbye to the indulgent 3-minute guitar solo. To keep the algorithm happy, artists and producers are now forcing songs to have much shorter intros just to avoid being skipped. And they're structuring tracks entirely around passive, lean-back mood playlists. You know, like music specifically for sleeping or working out. The platform is quite literally shaping the art.
Now the labels absolutely survived the apocalypse, for sure. Some of them, like Warner, even cashed out their Spotify stakes for over $500 million. But the reality is, they're now effectively just tenants living in Daniel Ek's house. And it's a massive house, a platform boasting over 281 million premium subscribers and commanding 31% of the entire global streaming market.
Let's wrap things up with part 4, captured, not convinced.
If we step back and look at the core business lessons from this whole gambit, Eek proved a few undeniable truths. Number 1, people don't just naturally adopt innovation, they run toward it to escape the pain of their crumbling empires. Number 2, if you completely remove the risk through equity and guarantees, you make incredibly difficult decisions surprisingly easy. 3, absolute convenience will always beat out the old model of ownership. And finally, you don't change an industry through direct fights. You win by building a product so perfectly timed that you become entirely unavoidable.
The major record labels didn't jump into the future because they were forward-thinking visionaries who just got it. Not at all. They were backed into a brilliant psychological corner by a 23-year-old coder, where surrendering to a partnership was literally their only logical path to survival. The deal that saved music ultimately handed unprecedented power to a single platform, which really leaves us with this final, provocative thought about our modern access economy. When a machine's algorithm becomes the absolute most powerful tastemaker on the planet, who is really in control of the music we hear? Is it the artist, the listener, or the platform?
If this explainer changed how you look at the music industry, the incredible psychology of negotiation, or platform dominance, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden strategies defining our world today. Catch you on the next one.